It's a crisp October 13th, morning of October 13th, 2024. Temperature 49 degrees and we shut our vehicle off. It's actually a little warmer than I thought it would be right now. Having a weather it's a little bit below normal after having above average temperatures for much of September. We're experiencing below average temperatures here in mid-October. We're at a place we like to go at least once a year, and this year it took us a long time to get here, but we're here on this October 13th. It's part of their harvest weekend. Babbie Rural and Farm Learning Museum here on the River Road in Peru. Great place to visit. And we're going to find out a little bit more about what's going on here today. It's one of two stops we're going to make. We're also heading for the Country Dreams Farm very shortly. We are inside. We've talked to the folks welcoming everybody in there, but they're all busy right now, so we're not going to chat with anybody in there. But we can't go very far without looking at this great big beautiful sign that the museum purchased last year when they were having an auction at Dragoon's Farm Equipment, when Jack Dragoon was selling the business to the new owners. This was something that was up at the Dragoons, and as I recall, Jack actually threw a few bucks into the coffers for the museum folks to help them be able to bid high enough to purchase this beautiful sign here. It was an era when there were a lot of tractor dealers around. There were a lot of dealers in the area, and the Chilton brothers up in the depot, Jack Dragoon, Floyd Dragoon, Jack's father, and then a farm all dealer in Plattsburgh, Sullivan Equipment. A lot of feed bags and other kind of bags and stuff to look at here. A lot of farm and home paraphernalia. I know the GLF stuff here. Jim Robbins had collected a lot of this stuff in his days at GLF and Agway. And since he knew his daughters didn't really have any interest to it, he donated this little corner here of items to the museum, and it's Jim's name. So we certainly can't pass by without recognizing that. Agway and GLF were certainly names that were on everybody's list when you were a farmer in the days up until the 90s or so, probably. So a lot of stuff to look at in here, but we're going to step outside. That's Karen's truck.
Yes.
And she parks it here every day.
Well, we've had it all summer. It's going away sometime this week.
It's going home, huh? It's a beauty. Not a bit of rust on it. Okay.
You want me to do the whole demonstration?
Well, I don't know. What's your name here, first of all?
I'm Drusilla Deal,
And what
formerly of here in Peru, and now retired and living over in Vermont.
Oh, and you came all the way over here today to help out.
Every weekend.
Every weekend, all summer long.
Yeah. And
Right.
I'll be over here periodically throughout the winter.
Okay, so before I forget and don't get into it, this is the middle of October. It's pretty much the closing weekend for the year.
Yeah. Today's the last day.
But you'll be here helping out and
Yep.
so on throughout the winter months. And you
Yeah,
open
I've
usually.
been running the fair part
This is the
this
fair.
summer. Yeah, we've got a little mini Clinton County fair. So we've got the popcorn, the cotton candy. I do some games, and then a whole bunch of little prizes for the kids.
You got some rides here too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty scary
And these
rides.
are great because they have those bumpers on the bottom, so the kids can't actually rock them all the way back or forward.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a challenge.
There's some kids, and there's the second most popular thing, where we put all the
sandbox?
corn. Is over here, and it's like a sandbox but filled with corn, and then I've got gold coins stuffed in it, so they find me 5 gold coins and get a prize.
Oh, wasn't that something? So what are we doing with the corn here?
So this,
You're gonna.
because back in the day you used to have to take it and kind of squish it off with your fingers,
Take the kernels off, yeah.
and that would get rough.
Uh-huh.
So someone who was equal parts smart and lazy came up with this thing, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And
There you go, and it takes it all off.
yeah,
And this
it
is
takes
nice
it all
and
off, huh?
soft. I make sure everybody feels how soft this is, because then it would go into a bucket like this, and when it was full, it would go out to the outhouse. And that was your toilet paper.
oh yeah,
At
not
least
my,
until the Sears robot catalog came along. Because apparently, toilet paper as we know it isn't even 100 years old, so that was it. So then we take this corn that's been shucked and bring it over here,
uh-huh.
put a handful in,
Handful of corn, okay.
you guys,
Uh-huh.
and then grind it up,
Grinding it here, yeah.
and voila, we've got the cornmeal,
Uh-huh.
which we use for porridge or feed the pigs. Then to get the corn flour, put it in a good old-fashioned flour sifter. And there we go.
All right, so you can cook with that then, huh?
Yeah. So now we got the nice flour, and then the kids get to pass it around and see the difference.
All right.
Yeah.
So is this still how you get your flour? Is this how you do it?
Well, I don't really do too much flour, so.
You don't do flour?
But we can also use this for the chicken feed.
Chicken
So the
feed.
barrel out front is filled with this stuff,
Chicken feed.
and then the whole stuff goes into there.
All right. These guys are,
And there's the kids having, you guys been playing already? Oh, you've got yours from yesterday, okay.
okay. All right, well, we'll let you get busy here. It looks like there are
Does
folks.
anybody want popcorn?
All right, we'll move right along here. She is busy, as you can see, and here's a picture that we also saw. I don't think Jack got rid of his. I think he still got his. But Babbie's also had this, the grand opening of the Dragoons Farm Equipment in Moors. Friday the 10th, April 10th, back in the 50s sometime. This truck, incidentally, is a 1952. So lots of things to see here before you step outside. There's the founder. Mr. Leeward Babbie was up there briefly. I want to say hello if Leeward's listening to this. Sorry we can't talk to you this year, but maybe next year he'll be able to wander around here and say hello and greet all the visitors. This was a dream of his, and he's certainly made it a reality with the help of a lot of folks. A lot of folks. Everywhere you look, there's paraphernalia. They usually open up in May, so check out their Facebook page or website and know when their year begins. And as I said, it's harvest weekend, so this will be the last day that they're open this year for 2024. Looks like someone's been busy picking up some hay. And they've continued to add to new buildings to this. When we first started coming here, this was all wide open. They've got the blacksmith shop here now, and one-room schoolhouse is under construction. They've got a sawmill down below. They've got a general store. And of course, they've got the stagecoach from Frontier Town, I think it came from. These guys here are always working here. Donations for the one-room schoolhouse are being accepted. As you can see, the schoolhouse is under construction. They usually have a little garden here where they harvest some vegetables and so on. Looks like they're about to Maybe cut some more corn. They grow this just so they can harvest it on harvest weekend. Looks like they got David's Repair Service here, working hard. The helpers park in the back here. And they've got some baled hay. And they got some loose hay. I assume that's hay. I don't think it's oats, but we'll see. If you live in a rural area like we do, you're not surprised when you see a piece of farm equipment going down the back roads, and obviously not on the interstate, but on other highways. Well, if you look at the original non-horse equipment that they used on farms, early tractor here, as you can see, these wheels weren't made for highway, and if they were on the highway, it was dirt roads anyway. It was made for going through the field and getting the best traction they could. So there was no rubber tires on this old case. And there's some equipment here. This is for corn. Go down one row at a time. Not sure if this was originally I would imagine it was made for tractor pulling, because a lot of equipment here, maybe a real strain on a team of horses, but maybe, of course, it's hooked up now for a tractor if it wasn't originally. My guess is it was originally. And the row of corn would come through here. When it got to a certain amount, it would be tied into a small bundle and then dropped on the ground. Then you would come with your pitchfork and a wagon and pitch that corn onto the wagon and bring it to the barn. There's an early rubber-tired vehicle here, tractor. McCormick Deering. And it operates this baler here. This is a thrasher here, so yes, this is oats. This is not hay. This is oats. So it's a load of oats. And the job of the thrasher is to separate the oats from the straw. So it'd run through here, and one area would become the oats, which you would feed, and the other area would come out, would be the straw. The feed part would be sent out through there. A long tube and caught usually in a pile or in a bag. I always ask people to tell me their name, because they sometimes I might have somebody else's name in the back of my head, and the wrong name would pop out. But last year when I asked this guy his name, he looked at me as if, you've talked to me 150 times, how come you don't know my name yet? So I'm going to say it's probably David Babbie.
For over 20 years, yes. When we started at the fairgrounds with the antique show. Yeah, no, I'm David Babbie. So I help out with setting all this up and running these old equipment.
Help out, yeah.
Yeah, help out or do.
Do it all.
Yeah.
So got some oats are going to be thrashed today.
Yeah, this is our second load. We did a load yesterday and put on some good demonstrations of thrashing and the hay press and the hay baler. So we'll be doing that again, and also some corn binding. And we got the inch cutter set up, and we do that also. We did a little bit of hay loading out there, like they did in the back day, or the good old days, and like Amish do today. But our wagon's too small. It wasn't good. It was falling off. And
Yeah,
we'll try it again today.
you usually got a crew up there handling the hay, and I like to tell my story every year that when they'd bring that loose hay into the barn at my house, when I was about 4 or 5 years old, they had a team of horses on the pulleys that would pull the hay
up into the mow.
Yeah, so my job was to sit outside the hay barn, and when the guy inside said, "Whoa," I'd holler to the guy on the horse, "Whoa," and he'd
Just
stop.
passing down the information.
Yeah, so that was my job.
Yeah.
Sit there in the weather and say, "Whoa."
Yeah.
So it's come a long ways, and I'm looking at it just ties it into little bundles here, the corn.
Yeah. This is a McCormick Deering binder, hooked to a 8N Ford. Originally came from Doc Burrows. That was Doc Burrows, and then we ended up buying it from Seth Florence and restored it. Oh, I would say a good 15 or 18 years ago when we had the antique show there at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
And then this came from the Makis farm up in Sable, a nice original piece.
So you've been gathering stuff for. Well, I remember your father telling us in 2009. He saw Gordy Little and I up at Champlain at the bicentennial celebration, or whatever it was, quadricentennial, I guess it was, for Samuel D. Champlain. And he says, "It's going to happen. We're going to get that museum."
Yeah, and he's still proud of the museum. Unfortunately, he's not here this first fall without him, but he was always interested in what we were doing and how we were doing it, and had some tidbits on how to do it.
Tidbits?
Tidbits.
Or instructions.
Or instructions, and just how
Well, you lived it.
Yeah.
I
He knew what he was doing.
I remember when I was a kid, not during the hay season, because my father would take care of that, my father and my uncle Ronald and the family. But when I was a little kid again, when it came to the corn season, you'd get 4 or 5 local farmers together, and you'd share you'd each pick a date, and
Yep.
this was your date, and my mother would make 4 or 5 apple pies, and they'd all be gone.
The farmers got hungry after a good day's work.
When they came in at noon to eat, they came in to eat.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember as a small kid, we teamed up with Jimmy Allen and the Torrance, both Norm and Avery. And I remember going to their farm, and they were chopping corn and put it in a silo, and then they'd come and do ours. I think we did ours first, and we went to Jimmy's, and then we went to Torrance's when we first got started here at the farm here, in the mid-'60s, late 60s. And that's what they did. They shared equipment, because no one small farmer could afford these bigger, expensive pieces.
Yeah.
So one farmer would buy this, one farmer would buy that, and that's how they survived.
Well, I think you've got the thrasher. Was that Romeo Trudeau's?
It was.
That's my uncle, and I remember him coming to our house, getting thrashing the oats, and he'd go around, and that was.
Yeah. They'd make their rounds.
Yeah.
I think he took care of Cumberland Head and
That's where he
Pointer
lived.
Rush and all that.
Yeah. So he, of course, being part of the family, he came up to Champlain, and that's what I was done. Who in the heck can afford a thrasher? That's you can.
Exactly.
Each farmer couldn't afford that, but you could afford to pay somebody else to come and do your thrashing do it and take care of it. And That would, as I mentioned earlier, separate the oats from the straw, and you'd have straw and you'd have oats to feed the cattle or make grain or whatever you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And this corn would be tied into bundles, and that would be brought to the farm, to the barn, to the silo, and that's where it was chopped up.
Yep.
It wasn't chopped into fields like it is now.
No, the bundles were heavy too. They're a little bit lighter now because it's drier, but yeah, it's a lot of hard work
Oh yeah.
handling those bundles on both ends and binding it. And prior to these binders too, that was a lot of hard work, a lot of back-breaking work because you had to cut it all by hand, tie it off in bundles, and so this was quite an invention. This
Yeah.
saved a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's primitive now, but when they came out in the
what a
20s and 30s,
what a step up it was.
it was to have something like that to cut your corn.
Yeah.
Yeah, to sit on the tractor or the machine, and of course this was horse driven, but to sit on that seat there and go out and bind 2 or 3 acres a day, that was pretty good.
Well, it took some strong horses to pull all the equipment because that equipment isn't just rolling there. It's cutting and it's
right.
tying it, and there's a lot of equipment there. So it took a strong team of horses. They earned their feed that day.
Yeah, they're oats and grain at the end of the day. Probably a bale of hay too.
And I got to mention too, you got the oats here. Usually it was also tied up when we got it, and you still see it. I think the Amish again. I think they still do it that way.
Hmm.
And you'd grab those bundles of oats and stook them.
Yep, stook them, cut them, and stook them. Unfortunately, we had enough grass in this oats that the grain binder didn't really want to cut it properly, so I had to cut it with a sickle bar, and then we just kind of threw it on these wagons loose. But normally we use the corn binder or the grain binder.
Yeah. So the oats would be in a bundle, we'll call it. I don't know if there's another name for it. And again, I remember my brother Sam and I going out. They probably did it a lot more times than I did because he's 3 years older than me. But go out and stand up those bundles and let them dry. That was called stooking the oats.
Yep.
And if you go by the Amish farms, you can still see some of that. You can see them stooking the oats stooked up there and drying out.
Yep. Even the corn. There's some cornfields where you see the corn that's stooped up in a bundle, and it's like they leave them out there over winter and just kind of grab them when they need them.
Huh.
I would think the wildlife would have fun
I
in
would
there.
think that.
Nice little house with all kinds of food. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a busy 2 days for you here, and of course it doesn't just happen. You prepare for this and get all your equipment in line, and you got to
Yeah.
plant this stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I enjoy doing it. I like getting the old equipment out and getting it fired, and it gives me the reason to have them and to display them. So yeah, it's been close to 3 days getting it here, getting it in working order, getting it set up, and it'll be a couple days to get it all put back away for the winter.
yeah. And the temperature is not quite as cold as I thought it would be. My phone said it was going to be about closer to 40, but it's up around 50 right now, so it's not going to be a bad day out here.
Yeah, I think we had enough cloud cover that it's keeping it warm. Yesterday was a little windy. When I pulled the wagon out of the storage there, it stood the oats right on end. I thought it was going to come right off the wagon. I got it here. As you can see, a little bit blew around yesterday morning, but it was gusty.
Yeah, we had some strong winds. Personally, at home, we lost a huge branch off one of our pine trees, and
From the wind.
yeah, we woke up in the morning and looked around. No, not too much damage, but then I went outside and oops.
Yeah, at least it didn't land on the house, or it didn't sound like it landed on the
No,
house.
it was far enough away, and my brothers and my son Nate came over and chopped it up, and
Hauled her away.
well, it went in different directions.
Yeah.
So this is a place. When do you usually open in May? Because it's going to be kind of late for the folks watching this to come this year. Is it around Memorial Day or?
Well, we used to open on Mother's Day, but we decided to push it back 1 week. So I believe it's a third weekend in May, and we call it the plow days because we plow up the ground here and the field that we have up there by my father's house, and get ready for planting the corn and the oats. We also we bundle 2 wagon loads of this corn here, and so we'll demonstrate husking and shredding. I got a husker shredder, and that actually takes the ears off the corn, and then it shreds the stalks and where you can use it for bedding. So that's a good demonstration in the spring also, and it gives us corn to demonstrate throughout the year, the 2 loads.
Okay, and you're still keeping animals here throughout the year?
Yeah, the horses stay here through the years. We got two miniature donkeys that stay here. We brought some chickens in. Lee arranged somebody with some chickens to bring them in for when we're open, but they'll be leaving here shortly now that we're closing up. So we have chickens also.
Okay, was it 250 River Road? What's
It is. It's 250 River Road in Peru, New York.
And you got a website, right, or at least a Facebook page? And
yeah, my sister Lee is very active on the website with social media. I think that's really helped the people to find out what we're doing and where the museum is. We'd like to do a little more advertising, like off the Northway and stuff, but we really haven't come up with a good plan. But the social media is really helping out, and people follow it quite a bit. I've talked to people there, and they follow it, and so they know what's going on with the museum and the dates of the certain special events.
And I saw somebody here today with a laptop, and I guess you're upgrading some of the information you're putting up there. That's what they're doing?
Yeah.
And of course, this is run by a committee now. It's founded by your father, but there's a committee that runs this and volunteers, and everybody here is a volunteer.
Yeah, everybody here is a volunteer. Unfortunately, we can't pay everybody for all the hard work that they do here, so it is volunteer basis, which we really do appreciate. Without the volunteers and the people that spend time on the board to make decisions for the upcoming year, it'd be very hard or impossible to run the museum.
And of course, it's every museum needs funds, so you're always looking for anything that folks can offer to help support your efforts, huh?
Absolutely. The town of Peru helps out extremely, and if there's we put a wish list up on the board, and a lot of that was filled this year with people seeing our wish lists and actually donated to the museum so we can keep going. Our biggest project in front of us right now is a schoolhouse,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
which is this spring we got a chance to put the walls, the trusses, and the tin on it. And so next weekend, now that the museum is closed, next weekend we're going to start enclosing the outside of it. That's our goal, to get it enclosed, and then from there, next year we're going to work on the inside of it to finish off the inside, which will be great for the school tours that we do, to bring the kids back into, well, what a lot of people grew up with, is every little town had a little schoolhouse.
A lot of little schoolhouses.
Yeah, there was, and if you start looking around, there's more out there than you realized. A lot of them got converted, but some of them are still there and standing upright.
Yeah, well, my father grew up next to a one-room schoolhouse. Right, it came off our property. It became a separate entity owned by the town for the school. That school got moved, and it's on the corner of Honeymoore's Corners. It's now a home, and a second story has been added to it. So a lady named Maggie Hebert, who ran the place called the Shangri-La, which your father would remember.
I've heard of that before. I think that was a popular place.
Yeah, it's right there. Well, it goes Route 9. Well, it used to be the road before the Northway if you go from New York to Montreal. So Route 9 was a very busy highway.
Mm-hmm.
And Shangri-La was right there in that corner at Honeymoore's Corners. There were 9B and Route 9 and the La Valley Road meet. And that house is still standing. It looks like in great shape, but it originally was right next door to us. And there's each town probably had, depending on the size of the town, 10 or so schoolhouses, because you didn't travel very far to go to your one-room school.
That's right. Yeah, 1 mile a 1 mile walk was probably far enough for most people, especially on a rainy, cold, snowy day.
Yeah, and it was uphill both ways. Remember that?
Yes,
When they walked to school, it was uphill both ways.
so the story says. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for taking time. Anything else I didn't ask you that you think we should know right now, Dave?
I mean, the schoolhouse is our newest thing. We got the sawmill up and running today.
Blacksmith shop's running.
Blacksmith shop is running.
General store's open.
Yeah, general store is open. We had a good day yesterday, a nice steady flow of people for demonstrations. I guess the biggest addition, or one of the bigger additions, is a fire truck that was donated by Warren Brillia and his family.
Oh, wow.
I purchased it 3 or 4 years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, from Essex County Fair. It was there on display, and so I kind of liked it and purchased it. And Warren, he was my teacher at BOCES back in 79 and 80. He seen it and fell right in love with it. He always wanted an old fire truck, so I sold it to him, and he spent 2-3 years with the Davises on Jersey Swamp Road, because Chad ended up marrying his daughter, and they restored the whole fire truck. And unfortunately, the early summer he passed away, and in his wishes he wanted to donate it to the museum, to put in parades and to give the kids rides.
Wow.
And so every special weekend we're going to have it here to give rides. Both the stagecoach, which is very popular. David's heading out with it right now with a family, and then we'll give him a fire truck.
David's talking to me. What are you talking about? David's heading out.
It's the other Dave.
The other
Well, I made a mistake. We call him Dave, and I'm David.
Oh, okay. David's heading
That
out.
way there's not confusion.
Okay. And I'm trying to remember, is that Frontier Towns?
That's one of Frontier's towns. I think there was 3 or 4 of them around.
Uh-huh.
And that's one of them. Somehow it ended up on a Air Force base, 1 or 2 of them, and my father purchased it at that auction. It was an Air Force base auction, but I've heard there's a couple more kicking around.
Yeah. And speaking of purchases at auctions, we took a look at that sign that you guys got last year at Dragoons, and it was a proud moment for your father.
Yes, it was. Yeah, he really liked it and really wanted it, and a lot of people pitched in to make that happen. It did cost more than I thought, but it's a big sign, and what I liked about it is that there's 3 dealerships,
Right.
local dealerships on it. So that's a lot of history there. It's just not a international McCormick Deering sign.
Right.
It's got a lot of good history to it with the 3 dealerships that are on it.
Yeah, I don't know how Floyd. I think they used to use it at the county fair. I think that's when they used it, and I don't know how Floyd ended up with it, but we're glad he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Jack put some money towards it when we purchased it, because Jack wanted to see us end up with him at the museum. So it all came together, and my father really liked that piece.
Yeah.
And fortunately he was able to be there when we bought it and get it home and clean it up and put it up, and it made him happy.
Oh, looks like you got one of those modern phones.
Yes, I do.
That's not how it used to be done. The wife would come out and say, "Hey!"
Yeah, somebody would holler.
Okay, well, let you get on your phone, unless there's something else that you think we should know.
No.
But probably a whole lot of things we don't know that we should know, but anything that comes to your mind is fine. Okay, well, thank you very much, Dave.
And yes.
David, excuse me, I don't want to call you Dave here.
You get it confused with Dave over
right,
there in the
right.
stagecoach. No, I appreciate you coming, and it's always nice to have you here, just taking some footage, and that way people can see what we do here.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's going to wrap up our brief visit here. If you're looking to see how not just farming but rural life was inside here they've got some what it looked like inside the houses just set up for display. If you want to know what farming and rural life was like in the 1800s and early 1900s, and this is the place to come. They got, as I said, a Facebook page, Babbie's Rural and Farm Learning Museum, possibly a website, but to come here and get their schedule and find out when they're opening. And if you got a few dollars you'd like to donate to help keep this kind of an endeavor going here in Peru, it's a great asset, and we certainly applaud our friend Leeward Babbie for coming up with this idea, and for his family and friends and everyone who works so hard to keep this legacy going. So thanks for watching Hometown Cable, viewer-supported local television. We're coming at you from Babbie's Rural Learning and Farm Museum. Thanks for watching. And just as an addendum, I want to make sure I got that name correct if you're searching for it. Babbie Rural and Farm Learning Museum. And the first time we talked to Leeward, Gordy Little and I, he had a few tractors out here on his front lawn and a dream. And that dream became a reality. So now we'll close it. Personally, we're heading for Country Dreams Farm in Beekman Town.